Today on Rise Up, we kick things off by exploring some powerful community posts shared on the Risers official YouTube channel. Next, James Pollard takes a hard look at the topic of corruption within Islam, offering a thought-provoking analysis. And finally, we sit down with Brother Abeer, who reflects on his experience at the recent conference and open house tour. This is Rise Up.
Good morning, welcome to Rise Up. I'm Alia Halal.
And I'm Irfan Alamgir.
And we have another special guest today. We have a lot of special guests these days,
yeah,
which we're very lucky about. Today we've got Brother Abeer.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you doing, Abeer?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Alhamdulillah.
Welcome back to the Rise Up set, Abeer.
We always like having a believing brother or sister join us because, you know, that
Who doesn't want a fresh perspective every now and then?
Exactly. It gives the show some life, right? And it's not just you and me talking, Dr. Irfan.
Yes, you know. oh, you who believe. We have to, I think, really now emphasize and highlight the fact that there are many people from all over the world, from all different races, religions, who are joining the community, and it's really hard to keep a pace with the changes, right?
It is very rapid, very quick.
Yeah.
And I think it's a wonderful sign of growth and expansion in the fact that there is a light that is touching the people. Brother Abeer has actually been on Rise Up before.
Yes.
But we're going to be doing the show with you today. Very honored to have you here with us.
Thank you so much.
Giving your 2 cents. And also an added attraction to having you here is that you were actually part of the conference that we had recently.
Yes.
And the open house day event.
Yes.
So we wanted to get your thoughts on that. Shall we begin with the conference? Let's go with that.
Because I don't know when the videos are coming out. I don't know when all the different presentations.
There's a lot of footage.
Yeah, there's still an editing
coming out very soon. Yeah, there's a lot of editing going on. They're almost done. Hopefully, very soon we're going to be broadcasting all that footage on the satellite channels.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, but give us an insight into how it started and how it went.
I personally had a lot of fun. I think that it was stretched over a couple of days, and we really got some very interesting insights from experts in the field of theology, in the field of language, in the field of comparative religions, and I felt like even human rights experts, and I felt like that was something that was is very critical for our faith, because obviously we're a persecuted group. We're very proud of our religion and what we believe in, but obviously not everyone is going to see eye to eye, especially in the outside world. So it was very important to us that those experts in the field, those academics, they came, gave those talks and conversations, and really gave us like a fresh perspective into why our faith and why our religion is growing in the masses, and why it is, as you very rightly mentioned, it is touching hearts. So yeah, I had fantastic, and the food was really good, and the venue was really nice,
as it should be in every conference. Yeah,
absolutely, exactly. Got to get those basics right.
Mm-hmm.
The coffee was good, the tea was good, but no, being with all seriousness, I think it really shed light on the fact that we are on something true and noble and dignified. And actually, you know, the one thing that I really resonated with is that our faith, it has the best of Western philosophy and universal ethics like justice, like integrity, like truth-seeking, but at the same time is backed up with very strong theological concepts. And when you bring those two things together, it becomes like a really good, like, I don't know, it's a very good fusion as to why our community and our faith is growing and is so strong. And yeah.
Yeah, no,
that answers the question.
I think that's a really good description, and you're right. Actually, this is the fact that we are able to host a conference and that people around the world are attending it, and that, as you said, academics from different countries are also speaking on those subjects, is a testament to the fact that there is something to resonate with.
Absolutely.
There's something of substance that they have studied and they're able to present, and they want to present, and they're seeing that there is an impact on society, both positive and negative, because there is persecution going on.
Absolutely.
There are people who are learning these amazing kind of, principles that Abu Saik is bringing forward, and at the same time there are people who are being persecuted for it, and both aspects are being touched upon by these professors and studied, and
Absolutely.
I think that's really, really great, because a lot of people are probably wondering what we're doing, what we're about, and having that third person perspective from the professors and the academics really helps.
Yeah, no, otherwise it's just, what is it? It's like dry theological facts, right? Now you've got, with Abba Sadiq's theology, it's an action-based approach. It's problem solving. It is really putting the scripture into a practical format that then you can implement real change with. And I think the human rights aspect is such an important aspect to highlight. And how was this particular subject covered? Because there were professors who are experts in this field presenting on it. And how did they kind of approach this specific topic?
I felt like, as I mentioned, the Western concepts of also universal elements of integrity and justice, and all those sort of things are elements that we do really believe in as part of our theology. The way the experts sort of did was in various layers. So I think one layer obviously is just by stating the facts of what we actually believe in, what the faith is all about from a theological perspective, what our new jurisprudence is, what we take seriously in our sort of day to day. But then there was almost this touching of like, okay, there's some esoterics and Gnostic beliefs as well, which they touched upon, and how this sort of linked with Western, more universal thinking. As you rightly mentioned, that we are an action-focused faith.
Yes.
We know that there are problems in the world. There are issues that are currently happening on the planet, and we want to address those. Like, we want to create a world in which actually every human being is treated with dignity and respect, and with love and kindness. And as Abba Sadiq has mentioned, that this is quoted by being said to the Prophet, is that love is the entirety of religion, and that's something that we wholeheartedly believe in. So it was very interesting. I don't remember which professor specifically, but they went into the element of language and how language has such a profound impact in the way we think. Unfortunately, a lot of media houses and what you see on social media, it's very sort of like surface level information. So, and the way our minds works, they make subconscious neuron connections, right? You see something violent to something negative on the media, and if you see a particular group of people, you quickly make that association, not necessarily consciously, you make it subconsciously, and that has a very detrimental impact, because most people are busy, they have to go on with their daily lives. So what they do is they spend some time on social media, watch a particular channel that they have, that they've
run into or come across,
Exactly. And then they make very false assumptions. Like, one of those sort of in the media at the minute is, if there's any issues with, living expenses or anything like that, it has to be because of too much immigration happening in the country. So it's just, there's very sort of lazy assumptions, and there's a lack of critical thinking. And this is the one thing that I really loved about the fact that we brought academics in. It really made us realize that our religion is nuanced. There is a depth and a critical thinking that is required to understand everything that we're trying to achieve. It's not so much as, it's not binary, right? There needs to be a conversation. It needs to address, and only through a conversation can we really address the entirety of the problem as opposed to only one element of it. So I hope that answers.
No, that makes a lot of sense. That does make a lot of sense. There's so many layers to everything. It's not like the be all end all answer of everything is X, Y, and Z. There's more to it. Yes. And these conversations do help, and the presentations by the professors really highlighted that.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking who could have delivered this talk in linguistics, I wonder.
I wonder who it is.
Is it maybe a friend from
Professor
the University of Illinois?
Love to ask Fadil.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be. But it is really fascinating, isn't it, how people make assumptions based on kind of tabloid headlines, and they come and they see something and they jump to these conclusions. And this is why it is so important to really iron out the details and really get to the root of a problem. Yes. And when we do that, I think the common theme is that what we're saying, at least from our side as a religion, is that all of the problems that we see in society have this one common origin. And some people would say, oh, this is oversimplifying things. And yeah, it's true that initially, when you unpack a problem, there are many facets to it, but they all trace back to one common origin. And this is what I love about this religion, that it doesn't unnecessarily overcomplicate things. The reason why we have problems on this planet is because there are people who are unfit to govern in positions of power.
Yeah.
That's, in a nutshell, the issue. And from this emanates everything else, all societal problems, whether it's addiction to certain substances, or it's economic inequality, or it's gender inequality. Injustice in all of its different guises traces its origin back to the fact that there is not a man appointed by God at the helm of the ship.
Absolutely.
Right? And this is something that I think is the beautiful simplicity with which Abba Sadiq talks to people, and he tells them, look, you have all these problems. I have the solution. Just submit to God. I mean, what could be more beautiful than that?
I think regardless of what theology you pick up, regardless of whether it's Western philosophy or Eastern, I think one thing that is really evident is that you cannot be too driven by your desires and your worldly motivations. In Islam, there's obviously this concept of that the hereafter is one goal and the dunya is another goal. They're completely polar opposites. And I think that's partly, in fact, wholly, in my opinion, because when you are in love with the dunya, when you are in love with yourself or the world or your own property and your own assets, you tend to put yourself ahead of the world, and that compromises your integrity. Now, if a person like that compromises my integrity, I guess it's not too much of an issue, right? I'm only, my family would be affected and myself. But if a ruler or a person in power or a statesman has compromised their integrity, the impact is so damaging. Exactly that.
No, this is such a fascinating philosophical point that you bring up, because Ali and I were talking about this book called The Lucifer Effect. The essence of the book was that if you create conditions and systems that promote and feed selfish behavior, I mean, I'll give you a perfect example at school, right? The people who are going to finish at the top of the class, they're going to get the A stars, and then therefore, you want to be the one who gets it. Only a certain number of people can get that grade, and then you start saying, oh, this is my stuff, and it subconsciously builds these beliefs. And then
survival of the fittest kind of mindset, right?
And even in something, as people would say, well, this is now stretching it, but what about competitive sport, right? In sport, you want to completely crush your opponent because you want to make sure they don't come back and beat you. And this is how we're being programmed to think. And when Abba Sadiq talks about making a new earth, what is he talking about exactly? I think that's the real question.
Yeah. I mean, it's, all things that we see around us, at some point, someone envisioned it in their mind. It's a process. It's a product of our ideas. It's a product of what we hold dear to us. So if, for instance, I want to build a car, I'm going to start somewhere. I have to imagine the car in my mind. I have to sketch it out. I have to use a computer software to design a model and possibly build a prototype before I build the actual thing. So everything starts off with an idea. And this is why Abba Sadiq's message and what he's trying to do is so divine and inspirational and amazing. It's because he is talking about a divine just state where everyone is treated equally. Only when you talk about these ideas, when you spread them out in the world, will people start imagining, actually, you know what? I don't have to live in this tyranny and this injustice.
Wow.
There is a possibility, because it's about creating that possibility now. Whenever I look at,
right?
Exactly, like no one is creating that vision where you don't have to worry about where my next meal is going to come from. You don't have to worry about will I have somewhere to stay? Will I have something to clothe my children with, or where are they going to learn the education from? If those basics are done, truly fulfilled, and me as a dad, if I know that that's completed, I would love to give back to society. Wouldn't anyone?
That's such a beautiful idea and concept that you just described. That it really is. And I think that you are so correct, because there is that idea, isn't there, that if you don't create the environment which people, think is necessary, which was mentioned in the Lucifer Effect book, if you don't create the environment where people have to struggle to survive, then there won't be progress, then there won't be ideas, then there won't be advancements in technology and science, because there won't be motivation, because the motivation to survive isn't there, and therefore people won't try harder. But what you're saying, I really believe in that. I believe that it's actually like that, isn't it? That as long as you create the environment for people to prosper, they'll want to prosper more actually and give more. And human beings are not inherently evil, they're inherently good.
Absolutely.
So let's just give them a chance, basically. Is that too much to ask, basically?
Exactly. One last thing that I'd like to say to this is that in this country where we live, I think there's such a issue with feeling isolated and feeling, you know, to a certain degree useless. Because if you've got no way where you can contribute back to society, you get depressed. Like, you know, like everyone wants to feel valued. Everyone wants to express themselves through their own gifts and their own sort of superpower, quote unquote, you know. So I think that if those essentials, as you rightly pointed out, are satisfied, then who wouldn't?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a reason why these academics got together to talk about this, because not only are we, you know, theorizing this and saying maybe this could be a good idea, we're living it. And they've been studying the community, haven't they? And they've actually been wondering, is it working for them? And we had Professor Holly Folk comment on how smoothly it's running, the operation. And she says it is working. So it's not just an idea. People are able to implement it.
Yeah. I mean, look, we can see it in real time. Looking around the neighborhood, you know, you hear stories from your parents, grandparents, where there was this kind of neighborly concern for the welfare of somebody else who's living down the street. Now, nobody knows who their next door neighbor is.
Exactly.
And this, again, is being slowly fed into the psyche of humankind, that your neighbor really, you know, from a biblical point of view, is absolutely critical to your spiritual survival. But now it doesn't seem to matter so much. And where has that crept into our kind of civilization? Even in this country, where back in the day, people used to heat their homes with wood. You know, I've heard these stories from old people that I've done home visits for. They call you because they're lonely. And when you get there, you know, Mr. Edwards will be telling you he's like 84 years old. He last left his house like 3 weeks ago. He is sitting there and he's like, you know, when I was your age, and I was a medical student at the time, we would have people who just used to go check on the elderly people. We used to take them out for walks to the park. He says now nobody has time for anything. People are just busy in their own thing, trying to get their own stuff done, and we really lost that. And he says, how can you blame the immigrants for this, or the foreigners? Of course, he looked at me as an ethnic person. He wanted to put my heart at ease, probably, you know. But he was just giving this.
That's nice of Mr. Edwards.
Yeah, I was like, thank you very much. And but this is it, right? So people are quick to say, well, it's because of this. But actually, this deterioration in society that we're seeing, it's because people are being programmed to be selfish, me first. And Ahmad al-Hasan salam said, the problem on planet Earth, you know, he says this, on this planet, is selfishness.
Without a doubt. Absolutely.
For sure.
And, you know, I find it, thank you so much for sharing that, because the fact that Mr. Edwards felt it necessary to say to you, oh, by the way, you know, how can people blame migrants? I feel like a lot of people do that. And I think at some level, they just want to feel like, oh, don't label me as the bad guys. Don't label me as the guys who don't like you. Like at the moment, everyone feels the need to defend themselves. And that's so crazy.
Yeah, it just shows we are living in that jungle mentality, and we have to kind of assert that, look, I'm on your side, everything's cool, we're all, you know, on the same page. That should be the norm. That should be the general norm. We do have some community posts about the day and about, actually, I think we have a multitude of topics in the posts. We have Ansari missionary work. We also have some comments from Abu Sadiq about these last 3 days that we had, which were really intensive. So let's go ahead and see what it is that was out there. Ah, amazing. I love that picture. Yeah. There's abeer right there. I can see you.
Yeah.
We have a lot of beautiful faces there. It says, the third and final day of the Supremacy of God conference ended with a tour for the believers of the headquarters of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light. It was an incredible moment meeting all these pure souls. Ali Sultan has his hand out going, Labbaik ya Abu Sadiq, as he always does.
Yeah, very. That's a beautiful photo, and it's all people who are new to the faith from all over the world. You can actually see their brothers from all over. And this is some of the old guard mixed in there.
Yep, there's Hamid Riza and Hussam at the left. And you've got their, you've got Anthony, Ali Abdul Sattar, you've got Lito, Ali Salah. Oh, and Brother Amir from our community. It's in the middle. Brother Elias in the back. Everyone looks so happy. It was such a nice, happy day. It was
Absolutely.
like a reunion day, right?
The vibes were crazy.
Absolutely great. We need more of these open days, Ali.
I know. It was wonderful.
Yeah, we'll get you a new larynx, new voice.
Right, I seem to have lost my voice. I'm right there in the background.
Led the show there. This brother was absolutely amazing. Brother
I love
Lito.
Brother Lito, yeah. We
Brother
love him
Lito,
so much.
yeah.
He's been actually a believer for a few years now, and he's
Incredible
such a faithful, sincere, humble man, yes.
So,
There he is.
Yeah, you know, this is a proof for this call that the people who are attracted to it are just good, wholesome human
Absolutely,
beings
yeah.
who just want to make a difference to the world.
Oh, I love this one.
amazing.
Da Pope.
The Pope. And Osak's looking very happy there, standing next to Professor Rasfar.
Should have had another person from the Hispanic community holding the other side with El Nuevo Papa.
We need to get Dr. Irfan a shirt that says El Nuevo Papa.
I love that term.
Definitely.
But you know, Dr. Irfan, what you said, I really believe that is true. That there are good people who are attracted to this call. But I've also noticed something. In all these years of talking to these people, well, it's been a few years of outreach existing, and we've been talking to different people from around the world. They do have this common trait, which is that there's this idea that I'm not good enough, I've made mistakes,
Yes.
and they don't see themselves as that wholesome good person that you and I would say they
Right,
are.
right.
And I think that that's natural.
Yeah.
But also I think that Abu Sadiq is actually liberating people from that guilt and from that fear of I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I can't approach God because God might not accept me.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult kind of mountain to climb and cross over. But it isn't true. People are worthy, and God loves all of his children. So
Yeah.
I think that's something that people need to know.
It's so important, and we've been emphasizing this recently when we talk about being part of a system where there is so much corruption. Then just by the mere presence of existing in that system, by the process of diffusion, call it what you want, you pick up negative traits, which is why being a part of this community in the physical sense
Yes.
is such a shield and a protection against these evils that exist in society. If you are, like we said, if you are connected to an infusion and that infusion contains a particular drug or medicine, then that medicine is going to have an effect on you, whether you like it or not. The only way to break free, the only way to free yourself is to disconnect first from the system that you're plugged into and then connect to the Imam of the time. You can't have it both ways. And actually there are narrations that say that, you have to pick a side. You can't be in the middle. You have to choose to be with God or choose to be in the other camp. It's either you're with us or against us. I hate to quote George W. Bush, but in this particular
There's no gray area.
Exactly,
There's no gray area. This is what it is.
Yes, and this has been said by many sages. You have to, if you believe something, then get behind it 100% and don't sit on the fence, because that's where all the earthquakes happen, and you don't want to be there during the time of the rise.
Absolutely. I think that the open house day event was beautiful. It was like a reunion of family members coming together. We had those conversations with a few of them who did say, oh, but I want to give more. I wish I could do more. And everyone is doing so much. And we will never give God what he deserves. No one can ever do that. But just the fact that we exist in his name and are doing what we can is what matters, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think we all are shortcomers, and we all feel shortcomers. And I feel like, I heard one of the Ansars say that at some points Abu Sadiq feels like a shortcomer. At some point Imam Ahmed Hassan feels like a shortcomer. At some points our 12th Imam feels like a shortcomer as well. So it is the way it is. We have to try our best. Obviously we can never it's very difficult to fulfill, if not impossible, to fulfill the rights of God. But we have to try.
We have to try, and that's what the point is of this community, isn't it? That, as you said, it's an actually proactive religion. It's a dynamic movement. Yeah. And I would love to hear from you. How was the day for you, in the sense of what were the highlights? How was every step for you? Because you actually have been here before. It wasn't the first time for you, but it was the first time for you to be in an event of this nature.
Yeah, I was in a very special position, because I was getting to know, obviously, all the Ansars that have moved, come here to be here. Some Ansar were from the States, some Ansar, even Brother Ibrahim, came from the Maldives. So it was really special to get to know them and like how much they wanted to be with Abu Sadiq and how much love and affection they had for father. It was really evident from the conversations, the way they were speaking to me and all that sort of thing. Now obviously I'd met Abu Sadiq alayhi salam before that point, so I don't want to give too much away of that sort of special occasion. I'm glad I didn't. But yeah, it was a unique position where I was, because obviously I knew the Ansar here as well. So seeing that fusion,
you're like that bridge kind of from with the outside world and us.
Absolutely. So when I sort of saw the new brothers who sort of like come for this event with, you know, the Ansar that live here, and just getting to see them mingle and talk, and just, there's one thing that I've noticed about, regardless of where you're from and if you're part of this family, is that you can talk about topics and talk about things and really open up with each other like you cannot open up to anybody, even your blood relatives, because it's one of those things, as you mentioned, that there is something common between all of us, and that just makes it special. I mean, the vibes at the open day were incredible, despite the fact that obviously the food was so nice. But it was the conversation, the vibes, you know, and like, I don't think I've ever hugged that many people in a single day ever before. I was getting kisses as well, so you know, it's just one of those things. It just shows
to tone it down during the colder months. But I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
Public announcement by the doctor. But yeah, it's good, and the Basilica moment was pretty intense because we had a big group of Ansar. We had Abu Sadiq from Him His Peace greet them and meet them, and it was a very emotional moment. I think
it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was a very emotional moment because you got to see. It's that moment, isn't it, when the believer meets the goal of the wise. It's the Imam, right? And they meet their goal of the wise. Yeah. And Abu Sadiq gave that beautiful glad tidings of the door of Hatta, that when you pass through that door, your sins are forgiven.
Correct.
It was a beautiful moment. Yes.
Absolutely, it's the direction everyone needs. Everyone needs direction. They want to do something. They don't know who to follow. They don't know where to start. They don't know how much work is involved. And Abu Sadiq, when he walked into the basilica, it's just like, that's my goal, as you mentioned. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a beautiful day. I'm just making sure we don't have any more posts that we might have forgotten to go through. Oh, we have community posts of Ansar from around the world, and we cannot miss that because it's been a while since we've had those.
Around the world in 80 Ansars, yes.
Yeah, let's do that. Australia, there's Brother Khalid. And they're holding posters, I believe.
Drum roll, could it be Andorra next?
Well,
it's A for Australia.
The Mahdi has appeared. I like how the Ansar in Australia, they go around and they actually hand out these posters and they talk to people. And they tell them, you can scan this QR code, it's not a scam. Excuse me. Because a lot of QR code scams happen apparently in Australia, at least as far as what I've heard from the Ansar there. They said people are a bit wary of scanning random QR codes, so they actually go and have that conversation.
You know, Australia has some of the most proactive 12 Shia communities that I've ever seen. And this is going way back over a decade. And a lot of the videos being uploaded and the level of interest in Islamic eschatology also, some of the best lectures were done in Australia. So you can see there's a real passion for the Mahdi there. So it's good to see people actually handing out real manifestos to real people. Trinidad.
That is quite a tattoo.
Indeed.
That's the seal, isn't it? It's like sealing yourself for God. Yes, this is the sister who did the tattoo, as MCR is informing us.
Yes.
God bless her. Iraq. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. What a poster placement idea.
Talk about going into the belly of the beast.
There's a phone number. Nilesat. That's the frequency for the Arabic channel that broadcasts the Middle East and North Africa.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
That's really courageous.
That's very symbolic, I think. Someone very artistic thought of doing that. There you go. Wow.
You see, this is the reason why these countries are not progressing. It is exactly why there is so much suffering in the land of Iraq, because the people there are saying, they're calling people to themselves.
Exactly.
To the supremacy of the people.
They are. So people might say to themselves, well, so does the Imam, right? So does Abu Sadiq. No, he doesn't. You see, that's the thing. What makes this religion different is that there is a solid umbilical cord that takes you all the way back to God. There's this rope that takes you back to God, and there's a light going through that rope, and it goes through all the prophets and messengers, and it ends at this point currently, and it hasn't ended for humanity yet. It continues on and on and on. And when a person in that sequence calls you to God, they are actually entitled to doing so because God assigned them for it. Yes. And they're the only ones worthy of it.
Yes.
Whereas other people saying, hey, I'll take you to God, don't worry about it. That's not calling to God, that's calling to themselves, because who told them to go ahead and do that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Taking our obstetric analogy, we can say from the belly button to the placenta, there is a continuous chain of prophet messengers.
There is.
You can't deny it, and it's based on a tradition and a chain that never breaks. This is the call of Abu Sadiq. This is his methodology, and this is the methodology of every prophet and messenger that has ever come. They have proclaimed themselves in a written will or pronounced on the tongue of a predecessor. And this is vital to understand. If you are going to find the Imam of your time and leave that environment of Jahiliyyah that you are in, if you don't know the Imam of your time.
Now, I know there was an aspect of the conference that was very fascinating, and I really can't wait to see the footage, by the way. So, and we have Brother Abeer here. He was there watching it live, so we're going to get his quote on it, his comment. We had various conversations on the human rights perspective, as you said, the persecution of the believers around the world. But we also had this kind of media smear campaign topic that was being discussed, where there are individuals who are going out to the media, right? And they actually are bringing up these
strange, good that they talked about that.
Controversial headlines, right? We talked about it before on the show, the Bitter Winter articles that were written by Rosita, and the idea of delusional journalism, which Professor Massimo Intervene said is irresponsible.
Yeah.
So I think that was something that was talked about during the conference, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I completely agree with them. Because what it does is when you do write hate speech or publish articles against our religion, against what we believe in, actually, it almost gives a bit of a green light to dictatorship rulers in Iran who want to suppress our voices, right? It's almost like, okay, if this article is released and people are talking about how, bad or evil they are in that country, then maybe we can suppress and oppress our followers in this country. So it's actually very responsible. And, even from a principle perspective, you want to fact check what you're talking about,
Exactly.
I remember in the conference we talked about anti-cultist groups who essentially they got the information from apparently being inspired by angels and dreams, and I mean the irony is high because by that logic the first person they should be questioning is themselves, right. So no, absolutely, I think it's highly irresponsible, both from a principled perspective, from the fact that if you are a truth seeker, you want to, whatever you write or whatever you want to say out to the world, you have to make sure that's correct.
No, absolutely. And I was hoping that we could actually get that article, just get the headline on the screen, so that if anyone's interested and wants to see what the professors are saying in general about this phenomenon that's taking place, they can go to bitterwinter.com and check the article out for themselves. Do we have it that we can show it on the screen? That would be great. There we are. And it's article number 5 of a series of articles. AROPL and the rise of New Age anti-cultism, new and old anti-cultists. There are signs that traditional anti-cultists are ready to enroll even the most lunatic New Age figures in their crusade. Wow. This is a real study, huh? This is really something that needs to be discussed. I think these are things that you should really even learn about in university. I wonder if journalism includes this kind of line of study in...
Yeah, it's desperation, it's clinging at straws, clutching at straws, isn't it? Yes. You've got these people who are just out to smear. I mean, one of the signs of the end times, or the signs of the rise of the Mahdi, has to be unethical journalism, spreading lies that lead people to make false conclusions, like we discussed with the example of the sort of poor migrants who are coming in, or who are actually keeping afloat structures like the NHS, for example, and working extremely hard and paying all their taxes and doing everything that they possibly can to contribute to society. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. These are economic migrants. Blaming them for society's problem, and in a large part, that is from unethical journalists who have these racist agendas that they spew out in the press. And it really does create a lot of strife in the sort of, I guess you could call it the working class, right? It is where the blue collars are actually trying to suffocate one another. This is creating trouble where it shouldn't be happening. And in this aspect, in the religious domain, where Abu Sadiq is the person who is the only religious leader in the world that has given a definitive solution, for example, to the Israel-Palestine conflict, for example, to the huge issue that we have in society of people who are displaced because of war, seeking refuge, the refugee crisis. Imagine giving a solution to the refugee crisis of the world.
Wow.
And so on and so forth.
There's such a long list of solutions that he's talked about.
Yeah, and then them being called like a cult leader, false lies and more lies.
Yeah, I mean, this is quite astounding to me, actually. The fact that some people take the effort to smear us so much. Like, are we hitting a chord? Like, what is it about them?
Something's up, right?
Yeah, I mean,
why is so much investment poured into maintaining systems in society that are so damaging to people, so destructive, when those same resources could easily be put into helping people out? You're right.
I think the intention isn't there. The intention in Islam is so important. Who we call niyat in Urdu. It's like, if you intend on doing something good for the society and to the community, it will happen. Why won't it happen? But if you don't intend it, if your interests are completely self-interest, and as you mentioned, then it's just not, you're not going to see those fruits. You're not going to see any benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the fact that these concepts were actually brought up and discussed, and that the different topics that were presented in the conference, they have really helped both the believers who did come to visit and also everyone else, because we had locals from crew who came over.
Fantastic.
We had different members from the general public who wanted to know more about the religion. They were invited to sit there and take part. It was needed, and I can't wait for the next one to be hosted, inshallah, very soon.
But Alia, these string of articles that are like now critically appraising and exposing these individuals who are now, I don't know, being financed by who or what agency is taking care of them, but there is a whole slew of them now who have been exposed by professors of religion.
Yeah, I mean, at one point, their motivation was that they received an email and some anonymous funder was going to fund all their activities. Isn't that incredibly shady? Strange. Like, why would someone take the time to fund and just create propaganda against us? So I find that quite astounding, actually.
Well, the thing is that I guess one of the great proofs of this call has always been that there will always be the dark side retaliating.
Opposition.
How unusual could it be, and would it be, if the man of God would stand up, the Mahdi would arrive, would appear and say, I'm here, and call the masses towards the supremacy of God and the banner of God, and there would be no opposition. There would be no one saying something against him, throwing a stone his way, no one mocking, deriding, ridiculing. It would have been a very unusual rise, and it's not how it's meant to be anyway. It has never been that way. No man of God has ever appeared on the scene and just calmly taken, the stage, and everyone just went along with it. It has never happened. Before Adam even had the spirit blown into him, he already had an enemy. Before he even got to be the caliph, the enemy was already present and ready to attack, and that was Iblis. So in this day and age, it's no wonder that the same is happening, and much more when it comes to the qaim of the family of Muhammad. But again, we also have this great support that is happening, and this enforcement by God. So we're extremely fortunate to be in this day and age. I think we're going to go to a very quick break now, but we're not going to go for too long, so stay tuned. We're going to be right back.
He, and only he, has the right to appoint the ruler. I have called you to the truth hereby declare on oath in front of God.
I mean, have you ever wondered to yourself, like, how it would have felt like to be one of Jesus' disciples, Prophet Muhammad's companions? Or to even walk alongside the children of Israel as they were with Moses? If you think about it, all of that and more is happening right here in this religion, and nowhere else, quite frankly. Because the same spirit that was with all of those prophets and messengers is the same one within Abdullah Hashim Abu Sadiq today.
His call isn't just about worshiping God, but it's about truly knowing God, knowing His true message, a message that has been distorted and lost over time, and that it made people into slaves, and it turned people into just objects that don't understand their religion and just fall into empty rituals. But this religion aims for you to be free and to understand the true message of God, that all that God wants is for human beings to live in peace and prosperity and freedom, and to know God, His true known.
It's simple, really. Abu Sadiq stands before the entire world, just like every other messenger stood in their time in front of their people.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Christians grow up reading the Lord's Prayer, but only on this path have I truly understood the meaning of that sentence. I've come to grasp the importance of that sentence, and it's not merely a prayer, it's a call to action, a relentless pursuit of making it a reality here on earth, making Eden here.
The seventh and final covenant of Imam al-Mahdi, a call that believes in heaven on earth, a paradise on earth, and Eden on earth.
I have not come except for the remorseful sinners. I have come for the thief who had to steal because of poverty, the prostitute who had to sell herself in order that her kids may eat, for the drug dealers who had no other choice in life. I have come for the broken man and the broken woman, those who were cheated out of life. I am the sword that they waited for, which is aimed at those who stole their fortunes. I come for the widows and for the orphans. I come for the refugees and for the oppressed. I come for the confused and those who almost lost hope. I come for all those lost children of God. I come to say to you, your Father is here.
Enoch, a figure shrouded in mystery and divine favor, is a central character in ancient religious traditions, especially within the Jewish, Christian, and Ethiopian Orthodox faiths. His story is one of unparalleled ascension and profound wisdom, marking him as one of the few mortals to be taken up by God without tasting death. Throughout history, Enoch has been revered as a righteous prophet, a scribe of divine mysteries, and a key figure in end-time prophecies. His legacy, especially in the Ethiopian tradition, speaks of a future where he will return as a powerful leader to bring justice and peace to the land. In the Hebrew Bible, Genesis 5:24 tells us that Enoch walked with God. Then he was no more because God took him, signaling his divine ascension. The book of Enoch expands on this, describing how Enoch was taken up to the heavens, where he learned the secrets of the universe and was transformed into the angel Metatron. This divine transformation underscores his role as a mediator and messenger, destined to return in the end times. The book of Enoch also contains powerful eschatological prophecies, such as in verse Enoch, which foretells Enoch's return with 10,000 of his holy ones to execute judgment upon the ungodly, establishing divine justice on earth. This prophecy resonates deeply within Ethiopian tradition, where Enoch is venerated as a future leader who will guide the righteous in the final days. As we look to the future, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, along with various other traditions, holds that Enoch will indeed return as a righteous leader, bringing with him a legion of 10,000 loyal followers to establish justice and peace across the land. This return is fulfilled today with the figure of Qaim Abba al-Sadiq, a messianic figure who is the reincarnation or return of Enoch. His mission will be to guide the people of Africa, establish a divine just state, leading them in righteousness and restoring divine order in a world plagued by chaos. Enoch's legacy as a bringer of divine justice continues to inspire hope and faith, promising a future where the righteous will triumph under his leadership.
Welcome back to Rise Up. We were discussing the amazing Supremacy of God event that we had just a few days ago with our dear brother Abeer here. We also went over some of the missionary works of the Ansar from around the world. And we have some segments lined up that we're going to be talking about.
Oh, yep.
Yes, we do.
Good stuff.
Shall we jump into it, Dr. Irfan?
Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's just roll the first one.
Brothers and sisters, history is not always written to tell the truth. It's often written to protect power. And the early history of Islam is no exception. If we want to understand the divisions and distortions in Islam today, we have to go back. Not to myths or assumptions, but to the moments right after the Prophet Muhammad's passing. Because it was there, in those early days, that Islam was reshaped. Before his death, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, left clear guidance for his followers. According to Sahih Muslim, one of the most respected Sunni collections, he said, "I'm leaving behind two precious things, the Book of Allah and my Ahlul Bayt, my family. Hold on to them and you will never go astray." This wasn't just a sentimental farewell, it was a directive. The Prophet was appointing his family, specifically his cousin and son-in-law, Ali ibn Abi Talib, to lead the community after him. But that instruction was interrupted. While the Prophet lay ill, he asked for pen and paper to give one final instruction, something to protect his community from division. But Umar, a close companion, objected. He said, "The Prophet is seriously ill, and we have the Quran. The Book of Allah is sufficient for us." Soon after the Prophet passed, Abu Bakr, with the support of Umar, took leadership, declaring himself the first caliph. This was not a decision made by the Prophet. It was a political maneuver decided quickly by a few companions without the wider community present. Ali, the one who had been by the Prophet's side throughout his mission, was not consulted. Even Fatima, the Prophet's beloved daughter, was denied her rightful inheritance from her father's estate. And yet the Prophet had said, "Fatima is part of me. Whatever harms her, harms me." What followed was not unity but division. The early leadership launched aggressive campaigns against tribes who refused to recognize Abu Bakr. Blood was spilled in the name of Islam, and the Prophet's family was pushed to the margins. The third caliph, Uthman, is remembered for compiling and standardizing the Quran. But what many don't know is that this act came with destruction. Uthman ordered all other Quranic manuscripts to be burnt. Uthman sent to every Muslim province one copy and ordered that all other Quranic materials be burnt. The intention may have been unity, but the result was control. Today we know of earlier Quranic manuscripts like the Sana manuscript that differ significantly in structure and wording. These manuscripts reveal a more complex history, one that challenges the idea of a perfectly preserved text. There are also disturbing hadiths which says that the verses about stoning and breastfeeding were written on a paper that was eaten by a goat. A tame sheep came in and ate it. This raises serious questions about what was lost and what was changed. This early power struggle split the Muslim world into two major groups: Sunnis, who followed the caliphs, and Shia, who held tight to the leadership of the Prophet's family. This divide only deepened over time, most painfully in the tragedy of Karbala, where the Prophet's grandson Hussein was brutally martyred by an army claiming to act in the name of Islam. The same Hussein who the Prophet had said of, the master of the youth of paradise, and yet he was killed, his family slaughtered, his women and children taken captive. If Islam had stayed true to the Prophet's words, would this have happened? Islam was never meant to be a tool for control. It was meant to be a path to justice, and that path starts with the truth. We can see that the story of humanity is a story of a battle between the oppressor and the oppressed. Those who win will write history and establish their narrative as the historical truth. Only those who question, research, and verify the facts for themselves will be able to fully understand the true picture.
I think it's a topic that we have to really go into a lot. And we've talked about on Rise Up quite often, the fact that if you don't go into the religious history and really look into what happened, you will not have that clear picture of where we stand right now and why there's so much division in Islam. There's a real reason for it. There was a political aspect to it back in the time before the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family even passed away. On his own deathbed, he was witnessing the breaking of his ummah because of the love of power and the corruption that was within the people.
Absolutely. I think the Prophet in his lifetime made it really clear from the event of Ghadir Qum and even from the will itself, which can be found in Shia texts, is that the individual who's going to inherit the nation is going to be Imam Ali. It was a very clear directive. I think it's very difficult to refute that fact because it is both in Sunni and Shia literature. Now, the fact that obviously some individuals decided to almost to a certain degree do a coup. They, during the Prophet's, close to the Prophet's death, they decided that they were going to actually hold elections on the side. And then from those elections, as we all know, Abu Bakr was selected Caliph. And this is where all the divisions sort of like came in. And then obviously there was the wars, the War of the Camel, the Battle of the Camel that started, and all this division that came into the Muslim world. But this, again, this points to the fact that why we need an individual appointed by God, because what we believe is that if Imam Ali was given his rights as the rightful caliph, as the rightful heir of the Muslim nation, then injustice would be completely eliminated from the nation. And as Imam Ali, a quotation that gets ascribed to him is that if poverty was a man, I would have killed him. Which is, if you think about it, such a uncompromising position that if there is injustice, if there is if there are individuals who are living in substandard conditions, our main priority has to lift them up, have to lift up the group of people who are, they're finding it hard to make ends meet. Exactly. And that's exactly what Imam Ali would have done. And that's certainly why when Imam Ali did actually come into power as history tells us as the fourth caliph, there was a lot of uprising, because obviously then all the positions were filled up on the basis of meritocracy, who can actually do the job, as opposed to, promises and family ties and, so forth.
Yeah. And I think that it was clear back in that time as well, and it became something very eradicated in the understanding of people, that the religion is actually knowing who was appointed and following them as the king, the caliph, the leader. So the name of the correct person who was meant to lead, this was actually the entirety of Islam. And at the same time, knowing that Abu Bakr and Umar and these people whose names are mentioned in the segment, such as Osman, these individuals came to the forefront and said, hey, we're just going to discard that entirely, and we're going to say the book is enough for us. And we don't need this will of Prophet Muhammad. We don't need to think about what happened in Ghadir Qum. We don't need to think of anything that's happened before this. We're just going to do as we please. And that's what they did. And lo and behold, it doesn't work, and Islam breaks into all these factions.
Yeah, no, and one of the things that is encouraging, particularly in the newer generation, in the youth, is that they seem to be more tuned into the fact that history is written by the victors. Absolutely. And that there is something wrong with the narrative that has reached us, right? How could the people who claim to be sympathetic to the Umayyads or the Abbasids, for example, and who glorify them, how can they possibly be from the same school of thought as the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family? And I think this is where I get so frustrated. We have a caller. Oh,
we have a caller on the line. It is Simon from Australia. Hello.
Hey guys, how are you? I was supposed to say g'day, mate.
G'day.
How's things?
I'm so sorry. I think the volume's a bit low on my end. Please continue.
Yeah, so your voice is just a little bit low. We're turning up our sort of earpieces here.
Is that better? Is that better? It's probably just because I'm leaning, not leaning. Okay, is that better?
Yeah,
can you hear me?
Much better.
That's much
How are you
better.
doing, Simon?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Hey, look.
Where are you calling from in Australia, first of all?
From Melbourne. Yeah, from Melbourne. Down the bottom, it's pretty cold at the moment. Yeah, nice and freezing. Look, I've come across your stuff a little bit. I've just been, obviously looking at the chat, and I'm trying to work out where. So I'm a Christian, right? And I'm trying to be respectful and obviously, engage in dialogue with you guys. And I'm certainly not going to attack you. That's just not how Jesus would want me to behave like that, right? So I respect you guys. You guys, you're created in the image of God. I love you guys. Just want to have a chat. So, where are you guys at with the concept that Jesus says that He is the way, right? Not our way, but the way.
Right.
So, how would you guys answer that?
I think that it's a very good question, because from your perspective and your background, it would make sense that since Jesus said He is the way, that should be the be-all, end-all of the answer for everyone. And we totally understand that that's how you would perceive it. And we absolutely believe that Jesus Christ holds that position of being that guide and that Holy Spirit that came and is still present amongst us and is meant to be returning as well. And we believe, in fact, that He has returned. And having said that, we also believe that Jesus Christ had made a great promise. And you find that in Scripture where He talks about the glad tidings of the coming of prophets and scribes and wise men. So we know that the story didn't really end with His apparent absence, because while He is still with us and amongst us, He's not in the apparent visible. And He did send from Himself people after Himself to guide people. And one of those people, actually, we believe is Prophet Muhammad. And one of the reasons we believe it's Prophet Muhammad is actually because in his time and in his region, Prophet Muhammad was the only voice testifying that Jesus Christ is the Messiah for the Arabs. And He brought that information to them, and He led them to Jesus Christ. Without Him, the Arabian Peninsula that had within it pagans and these different tribes that were worshipping idols would never have known that Jesus Christ was such a great Messiah and messenger. So it's kind of that line of thinking.
Can I? Yeah, okay. You've said a lot there, right? So I just want to unpack a little bit of that, right?
Sure.
So I mean, you sort of saw you, in my view, and please don't take this.
Don't worry at all.
I'm really trying to engage with you, right? You sort of conflated the whole Holy Spirit with Jesus. I mean, we would view that as being sort of like we consider them to be three separate persons, but one God, right? So you're talking about, you're sort of conflating the Holy Spirit with Jesus, right? Jesus is the Word of God, and if you read John 1, it talks about He was in the beginning, He was the Word, and all that sort of stuff, right? And so there's that, and then you talk about, and this is where I think we respectfully will disagree, but if Jesus is, and the original question was, if Jesus is the way, my view is that Muhammad was probably superfluous to that, right? So he was not required. Okay, so if I'm looking at it from my perspective, and I say that Jesus is the way, and that He was, and if you read the Old Testament, I can actually prove that Jesus was, it came in the flesh and all that sort of stuff, right? So Jesus actually fulfilled over 300 Old Testament prophecies in His coming, right? There was not one prophecy of the coming of Muhammad. Now, you might even pull out Song of Solomon, and you might talk about John and all that sort of stuff. But in my view, I don't see that there's any evidence that Muhammad was coming. But I'm not really interested in talking about Muhammad. I don't sort of see anything relevant. I was just wanting to know what your view on Jesus is. I mean, Jesus made it very clear that He claimed to be the way, the truth, and the life, right? And
we believe that
no man.
Well. We absolutely are on the same page regarding that, I think. But I think that the reason why I had to bring up other names is because I guess when you ask us where we stand with it, we believe that Jesus Christ being the way and being the Messiah is news that had to reach everyone, wasn't it? It had to go to all parts of the world.
But I mean, if you look at that term Messiah, Messiah is actually a Jewish term,
Okay.
and it's not mentioned actually in the Quran at all, right? So the fact that Muslims believe that Jesus was the Messiah.
No, it is actually mentioned. It says
clearly in the Quran,
Al-Masih,
yes.
and that is the Arabic word for Messiah, which is the Greek word Christ, and it means anointed. So it has the same exact meaning in the Abrahamic religions, just Greek versus kind of a Hebrew or Aramaic origin. That's the only difference, but it's the same.
Sorry, you glitched. What was the? Sorry, mate. I didn't catch your name. I'm sorry. What was? And I can only see the two of you on the screen at the moment. So,
yes.
it's sort of,
yeah, no. My name.
What
is
was your name again?
I'm just sort of saying that there is a mention of Jesus as the Messiah in the Quran. He's called Al-Masih.
Yes.
So that's the Arabic word for Messiah. Just like in Hebrew you have Mashiach. It's the same word. The only difference is that Christians say Christ, which is a Greek translation of the same term, and it all means the same thing: the anointed one, the one that was chosen by God to be the kind of savior figure for the children of Israel. He was that.
Could you give me that? Could you give me that reference in the Quran?
Sure, I'll pull it up while you guys keep talking.
Yeah, we can
just stick it on that.
So no, Jesus being the Messiah was very, very important, and I guess this is where we diverge. We believe that God sent to this earth prophets and messengers who embodied the Spirit of God, Ruhullah, or the Holy Spirit, and this is what enabled the prophets and messengers who were God's mouthpiece in creation to be able to do what they did. And Jesus was one of the most complete words of God. We call him one of the complete words because he was one of the most perfect of the prophets and the messengers. But Jesus did certainly say in the Gospel of Matthew that he would send sages and messengers from himself that would be treated as he was.
Yes.
In other words, rejected, killed, chased away. And he also mentioned the coming of a paraclete. Now, we can dispute what that means, but we think there is enough evidence pointing to the fact that there was a messenger called Muhammad who was the successor of Jesus.
I'll pull up that verse right now.
Who came and then, like Jesus, had a lot of success.
So you might... Yeah, so I read Greek, right? Parakletos. You don't even have to be able to read Greek, right? Sorry, but you only need to understand the context, because what happens is you read that verse. Well,
but what about the Gospel of Matthew? Why does Jesus say in the Gospel of Matthew, I will send sages and I will send... Yes. So let's see. Let's read it.
Can you give me that scripture?
23, it says, "Therefore I am sending you prophets and sages and teachers. Some of them you will kill and crucify. Others you will flog in your synagogues and pursue from town to town."
I think the question is more that if
do you want to answer
Jesus
that?
wasn't going to send them, these prophets and sages, how would the world know about him, right? Like, my question to you would be, how would the people in the Arabian Peninsula who are not Christian or Jewish and had not heard of Jesus Christ, how would they have received the way? How would they have found the light?
Well, Jesus himself said that he only came to the lost sheep of Israel, right? So he only came to the Jews,
so
right?
The Arabian Peninsula was not meant to be saved or guided?
No, hang on. Wait, just hang on. Just give me a second. So that's a full stop, right? And then in order to, and then if you read the actual promise to Abraham and the Abrahamic faith, it actually says through your seed, you will. Sorry, are you still talking? Because I can see you. It's not synchronizing. If you look at that Jesus actually went. Can you guys still hear me?
No, we aren't talking at all. We're waiting.
Yeah, no, we hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No
it's lagging. It's lagging.
Yeah,
it's lagging. So hang on. So I mean, what you're talking about is that Jesus said that he was coming to the lost sheep of Israel, right? So he was actually coming to the Jews, and you'll probably find that it was quite a shock when Peter and Paul sort of realised that was actually the message to be taken to the Gentiles and to the rest of the world. There was a vision that Peter got where it was literally, there was a sheet that came down, and there was, and the voice said, eat, right? And basically he was sort of saying that, that it doesn't matter about being Jewish anymore. This is that the actual promise it comes through the true Israel, and the true Israel was actually Jesus, right? And if you look at when he goes out into the desert and he's challenged by the devil, and he passes that test after goes into the desert for 40 days, and then who did that? What does that sound like? Well, that sounds like Israel itself, right? But Israel went into the desert for 40 years and they failed the test, right? Then Jesus comes out of the desert and he comes out as the true Israel, and the true Israel was the one that people would follow. And Jesus, if all the stuff that he did through his life, and if you read everything that he did, and culminating in the cross, that was the culmination of all of these messianic prophecies. You talk about the seed of the woman would crush the serpent's head. You talk about that, he would be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. I could quote all 300 prophecies, right? And all those prophecies actually point to the fact that Jesus was actually the one that would come to set people free. And in my view, it's complete. Just give me one more second. So that's the bit that's superfluous, right? The bit that's superfluous is you don't need Jesus, and I think you're sort of misinterpreting the actual understanding of his mission and what he came to do. The problem in the world, and you guys were talking about this earlier, and I agree with you, right? The problem in the world is sin, right?
Okay.
And the problem in the world is sin. And what he came to do was if you go through and you read Genesis, and you read when Abraham actually goes and creates a covenant with God, and he puts Abraham to sleep, and then the flaming torches go through the death passage of the covenant, right? So God makes a covenant with man, which is one-sided. And so if someone breaks that covenant, the person that needs to pay the price for that covenant is a person that passes through the death passage, which was God. So when Jesus is hanging on the cross and he's actually dying and bleeding for the sins of mankind, that is why. And if you ask a normal Christian, why did Jesus die for me? That is in fact the absolute reason. You can't have the forgiveness of sins without the shedding of blood. And I just want to understand so the first question is, if Jesus is not the way, then what is? Like, how do you guys see, the afterlife, obtaining eternal life, being with God, all that sort of stuff? And I'm respectfully asking these questions.
Thank you so much for giving us your perspective, and I would love to answer that. But I would like to just put in as a caveat, maybe you could answer that on a later time if you would like to. But I think that the question I'd asked earlier is still left a bit unanswered, which is, if Jesus is saying, I will send prophets, and then we find in another region of the world on a later date a prophet saying, well, Jesus Christ is the Messiah, then could that prophet not be sent by Jesus? Isn't that a hypothetical that we should consider? Also, the fact that this region needs to know, doesn't it, that Jesus Christ is the way. So who's going to send them that message? Is that message not meant for them? Are they not meant to find the way? That's my question to you, and I'd love for you to kind of, even if it's not right now, maybe let us know.
Yeah, because I think the crucial thing that we have to iron out is that you said that the Prophet Muhammad is superfluous. Once you have Jesus, you don't need anyone after that. But then clearly Jesus, in his own words in the Gospels, in the canonical Gospels, is saying that I am going to send prophets. Then a prophet arises in Arabia by the name of Muhammad, and he says Jesus is the Christ. And I am a successor in a chain of prophets and messengers that goes all the way back to Adam. And this is my claim to the prophethood. And then he has the success that he has, as Jesus did. And I think this is a really important point to now clarify, because you're saying that Jesus said nobody's going to come after him. Everything else after him is irrelevant. And then Jesus is saying something completely different.
Yeah, in Scripture it does say he'll send someone. So then we're kind of like lost in that problem.
Hang on.
That needs to be resolved before we continue, I guess.
Yeah, no, this is a great conversation, and I thank you for your question too. I mean, you've got to understand that I can call myself a prophet too, right? Mm-hmm. There's a guy named Joseph Smith that calls himself a prophet. And he claims that he got a message from God. And if you look into Deuteronomy, and you have a conversation about what the actual the basis of being a prophet is. The basis of being a prophet is the fact that the words that you say, if you get one of them wrong, you're not a prophet. Now, you can look at a lot of failed prophecies from Muhammad, right? You can. I can pull them out. You can just literally. You can Google them, right? So if there's one thing that they say, that does not happen, that is not true, they are not a prophet.
That's an interesting.
And so that's my. Yep. So that's my yardstick on this, right? And the issue that you've got is when you have a conversation with someone and you say, I'm a prophet, then you need to be able to understand what the message was that person was bringing. Now, what I see is all he did was, and I will also explain another couple of things. I have done some investigation into the Quran. I've read it. I understand it. I don't see that there's anything revelationary in the Quran. Like, what is it? The message is the same old stuff that you see. What the difference is this? The difference is this: that every single religion, including Islam, Judaism, and all are all based on.
Yeah, sorry, just come in 1 second. So, is it okay to say then? Do you concede that Jesus did say that after him prophets would come? You're just refuting that Prophet Muhammad was not one of his successors. Is that the case? So you believe that Jesus would have prophets who would come after him?
See that one.
Would there be prophets coming after him?
Yep.
So you're quoting. What are you quoting? You're
Matthew
quoting.
23:34.
You're saying. Oh, okay. Hang on a second. So that when it talks about being flogged in the synagogues and all that sort of stuff.
That's the one.
Okay. All right. So that's a warning against hypocrisy. That's what that talks about.
That's against what? I'm sorry.
So hang on a second. So it says, woe to you teachers. Hang on a second. Let's read it in context, right?
Okay.
So, woe to you blind guys. So he's actually talking to the Pharisees, right? Now, the Pharisees are, he says, woe to you teachers, laws, you hypocrites, you travel land to land, blah, blah, blah. Then it goes on and talks about, woe to you teachers and the laws of Pharisees, you hypocrites. And then it says, you blind guys. So 23:24 is talking about the Pharisees being
23:34. Sorry.
23:34.
Yes.
23:34. So he's having a go at the Pharisees, right? Therefore, I'm sending you prophets and sages and teachers. Some of them you will kill and crucify. Others you will flog in the synagogues, pursue from town to town. Yeah, there are definitely prophets around, right? But I'm not saying that Muhammad is.
Okay, so we agree that Jesus said he'll send prophets. This one we can agree on, yes?
So there would be prophets after Jesus, just you're saying Muhammad isn't one of them.
No. So, hang on a second. Therefore, I'm sending you prophets and sages. Some of you will kill and crucify. Others will flog in synagogues. So, he's literally talked about the fact that he had sent prophets to them. That was past tense.
Yes,
you read the Greek, it talks about.
I am sending you. He's telling them the plan. This is the plan. He's like, I'm sending you prophets.
No. If you read, that's a mistranslation, right? So what you're saying is, therefore, I'm sending you prophets and sages. Some of you will kill and crucify, others will flog in synagogues. And upon and so upon you will come the righteous blood that you've shed on earth.
Bless you, brother.
And then it talks about.
There are so many different translations of the Holy Bible, and they all say that this is like not the past tense. They all say, I am sending you.
Yeah.
I'm reading it in the Greek.
You can actually go on a website and look at the original
Bible Hub says it,
Hebrew, and you can see that it is something that is sending, referring to somebody who comes in the future.
In fact, it even says, behold, because of this I send to you this. In fact, it's a consequence of their actions.
But hang on.
Be in the future.
So there are prophets and there are teachers and there are sages that have been sent. That's fine, right? But the problem that you're saying is that because of that, you are then taking a giant leap and saying that Muhammad was one of them.
So at least we can agree that he would send prophets, right? This is, I think, something that we have to first tackle. Then we can
come to the other.
We can gauge who is or who isn't.
Well, but you've got to understand what then, therefore, constitutes a prophet. So if you're saying that a prophet,
we're running out of time now.
Okay.
I think that it's a really interesting conversation, and for sure you have your reasons for your reservations, and we have our reasons for why we believe this. I do want to end though on.
But hang on, but hang on a second. You still haven't answered my. You still haven't answered my question,
Yes,
right?
and I would like
About
to
Prophet
do that.
Muhammad. Okay, here it comes.
Hang on a sec. But hang on, you still haven't answered my question. What you said is, I think that Muhammad was a prophet. I don't think he was a true prophet, right? I can be a prophet. I can prophesy,
Understood.
but you've got to look at the actual output, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Over 2 billion
what you need
followers?
to sorry, what's that?
I think Prophet Muhammad, he's been ranked as one of the most influential people in history ever. And I guess it's the measuring yardstick. But just very briefly, I will say this.
Hang on, wait.
Let me just finish because it is important that this point be raised, okay? So you said that Jesus was attested to by the Old Testament, and you said there are many prophecies that said that the Messiah would come, and you're saying it all points in the direction of Jesus. We are pointing to the same things in the New Testament that point to the Prophet Muhammad. But even the Old Testament of the Bible, and there were rabbis who believe even to this day and age that Prophet Muhammad was a prophet. This is the people who hold on to the Tanakh. They're saying Prophet Muhammad was a prophet, but to the Gentiles. Exactly. So they acknowledge this. Why? Because Abraham had 2 sons. One of them was Isaac and one of them was Ishmael. Ishmael is considered a prophet in Judaism, and there is a prophecy that says in Exodus that he shall beget 12 princes. And there is a clear indication, and Prophet Muhammad claimed descent from Ishmael. And the Jews acknowledged him as a prophet in their time when they lived around the Prophet Muhammad. Using the Old Testament, they said he could well be a prophet, but he's from the Ishmaelite line. And as you said, Jesus was indeed sent to the lost tribes of Israel. So there is, other than the claiming of the will and succession from Jesus Christ, proclaiming him as the Messiah to the Arabs who were completely ignorant of the Prophet Jesus. But there is ample evidence, and we can continue this discussion later on if you're interested.
Okay, so you've thrown a whole bunch of stuff at me there, right? So that's great, and I don't see that the lineage of Ishmael to Muhammad is actually even provable. I'd like to see what that would look like. I mean, and in any case, it doesn't matter because the child of the promise, the one that was taken up Moriah and that was actually going to be sacrificed, was Isaac, not Ishmael.
Right, brother.
Right?
Can I say something very quick before we get into the detail, just from myself to you, if that's okay? I just wanted to throw something out very quick on a human level. Besides,
I was wanting to respond to the gentleman, but that's okay.
Sure,
I'm sorry.
I know, because I think there are a lot of
generally
details
nice
being put into this, and I understand that.
I'm really. By the way, guys. Sorry. Just give me a second. I'm really enjoying this conversation.
I know.
And I hope you don't think I'm being.
We are too, Simon. And I just wanted to say that there are so many people out there who want God and love God, and we're from those people, and so are you. And I think that there is such a there are so many conversations people end up having on religion that don't go well because there's this me versus you idea. And I think that you've called into a channel that really believes in creating an open platform for common ground. This is something that we really hold very dear.
And I think that's great. Yeah, I just think
encourage you to do that and talk to us about what you believe in. But we also want you to know that because you are a bit new to what we believe in, we actually are not mainstream. We don't believe in the mainstream idea of Muhammad. We don't believe in the mainstream idea of Islam at all. We're actually quite against it. And you might notice that by the way I'm dressed even. Yeah.
But I'm just going to say something, and I don't mean to insult anybody by this, but the prophecies of Muhammad and the Quran, to me, I don't hold any weight on any of those. I just think, no disrespect to anybody. I just don't hold any weight on that. I think what he said is superfluous to think. What I believe, and this is what I have seen is that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and that he says that the only way to the Father is through him. So he's either lying, he's either a lunatic, or he's the Lord. Now you decide what he is. I believe he's the Lord, right?
We absolutely agree that Jesus Christ is the way. We will never disagree with that. We can't disagree with that because that's exactly the message that Prophet Muhammad came with. So we are, by default, on the same page as you are, because Jesus Christ has
No,
to be the way.
no.
If Muhammad said it,
So the difference.
Don't we believe history
The difference
repeats
is. Hang
itself?
on. Whoa. Sorry. I'm not going to. Sorry. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I just want to say one thing.
Sure.
The way that you think is the way is not the way that I think is the way. The way that I think is the way is picking up your cross daily and following Him, having an understanding of
I
who
think you're
Jesus.
right.
No, hang on.
That, because, for example, we just brought up a verse about Him sending prophets, and you kind of did say in the end, yes, He sent prophets later, but you hadn't been aware of that earlier, right? From our conversation.
You're conflating that with the actual arrival of Muhammad, saying that there was a prophet, and that's not. You can't connect that. That's called eisegesis.
But I think that the reason.
No. It's not. It's not that it's not. I don't disagree with it. I just think it would be like me saying that that there was going to be someone who was going to speak. And that has to be Muhammad. I've done a PhD in logic. You can't do that sort of stuff. That is a complete misnomer, right?
There has to be a reason, right? You can't just say it's Muhammad.
No. That's like A implies B, and therefore B implies C, and therefore A implies that. That's just not right, right? That just doesn't work like that, right? Okay. So I'm going to say, I would say one more thing, and you've been really nice to me, and I really appreciate you chatting.
We appreciate that you called in. We hope you call in again, because we're enjoying this a lot.
Yeah, no. Look, I mean, I'm definitely not going to stop following Jesus, right? But one of the things that I did want to ask you is why. So probably the last question is, I do like your black beanies as well. You can send me one. But the other thing too is, I just wanted to make sure that that you understand that I'm not attacking you, but I honestly
totally understand that.
Yeah, I honestly believe that He is the way. I've seen. Now, you were talking earlier about large transformations in different areas of the world. I mean, I'm a wholesale evangelist. I go around preaching gospel. I have seen people transformed. I've seen in Iran, for example, there's 1 million people that have converted to Christianity within the last year, right? In China, we're talking about millions and millions of people converting. The world right now is actually moving in the direction of God. And I'm just going to say that Jesus mentioned that, towards His coming, there would be the rise of a lot of false teaching and a lot of other stuff. And I just wanted to make sure that, I'm not saying you guys are doing that, but I'm just saying from my point of view, that's where he was that's what he was talking about. And so, we need to assess what we're doing. I mean, I have a very strong understanding and faith, and I've, studied this stuff backwards, and I've read, I just want to say that, he either is telling the truth or he's lying. And you either have to decide on him.
Simon, I think that I'm so glad you gave us a bit of your background, because I think that someone with your background would be extraordinarily interested and fascinated by not just what we have to say actually, but what our leader has to say, who we believe is sent by God. And someone who is interested in religion and discussing religion like yourself should definitely do that research so that you know what we're really about. And I encourage you to go to this YouTube channel called The Mahdi Has Appeared. Mm-hmm. And there's an entire playlist in that channel, or on that channel, which has to do with Jesus Christ.
Yes.
And the teachings of Jesus Christ and how we perceive Jesus and His teachings and His life. If you're interested, I think you should definitely check that out. He will explain it in those videos to you a lot better than we would actually. And it is really worth checking out if you want to know who we really are. Because I'll tell you right now, we are not the mainstream Muslims that you are aware of.
Okay. All right. That sounds great.
And check out our book as well, Simon. I think you'll find it a fascinating read. There's a lot on Jesus Christ in this book, The Goal of the Wise. Definitely, it's for free. You can download the PDF and then come back to us and tell us what you think.
We'll be waiting.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Simon.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks, Simon.
God bless you. Bye-bye. Well, that was an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening very intently, and I felt like it was indeed very, very interesting. And I think that this just goes to show that people really believe in what they believe in, right? As we believe in what we believe in, there are Christians that wholeheartedly believe in what they believe in. There are Jews that wholeheartedly believe in what they believe in. And this is something that can be said for any religious, any group at all.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about the degree of education you have, whether you have a PhD or not, or how well you can evaluate information, or how good you are at comparative religions, you know, these are all abstract, or not necessarily abstract, but subjective qualities, which doesn't point towards the fact whether someone is a man of God or not. Something really interesting that Simon said actually was that the way he would figure out how someone is a prophet or not is whether they say something, everything is correct.
Right.
And why that's interesting is because if Jesus had said something quote unquote wrong, who would tell him that? Because he is the truth, right? Even if the whole populace were to turn around and say to Jesus, actually what you just said there was wrong, but he is the source of truth.
So they're wrong and he's right.
So they're wrong, right? And that's the fundamental issue, that if we have ascertained that someone is a man chosen from God, i.e. he has been mentioned by his predecessor, right? Then you are not in a position to question whether they're right or wrong, because they are the source of truth.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because you could have very easily Brother Simon from Melbourne, Australia, sitting on this couch here, and there's a call in by, I don't know, Rabbi Shmuley, and he says, look, Jesus could not have been the Messiah because he did not fulfill the mission of establishing God's kingdom on earth. And then he would come out and refute the claims and give his Torah references, and he would make a good case. He would make an impassioned case that Jesus is not the Messiah because he died crucified when the Messiah was supposed to rule as King David did. And so, yeah, I think this is about bringing people together, like you said, Ali, around a table where we find the commonalities and really try and understand what connects the Abrahamic religions. And just as the Jews reject Jesus, Christians reject Muhammad, is there a basis for this rejection? This is the key point.
And also, we do have to admit, and time has run out, but I'll just throw in very quick, we do have prophets and messengers who would make these promises and prophecies that would be delayed, or would come another time, or would be changed in a way. Noah had mentioned a flood coming for a long time, and people stopped believing in him on the basis that the flood didn't come. And they kept waiting, and then their patience ran out, and they said, you're wrong, this isn't happening. They stopped believing in him. Job lost followers because he didn't look like a prophet, sound like a prophet, seem like a prophet, because of his condition, because of the fact that he was so sickened by disease and plague. People couldn't believe that he was a prophet. So there are so many reasons that a person could say that prophecy isn't true or is true from a prophet that God has sent. And this is a very fascinating topic. I guess we're going to have to do this another time. I hope Simon does call in again, and I hope he checks out the Mahdi Has Appeared YouTube channel, absolutely filled to the brim with incredible information about Jesus and his life. We're going to wrap up at this point. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks, Abeer, for joining.
Thanks so much for having me.
And we'll see you again next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.